Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special video. I think I say that at the start of all of our videos because they're all special. But we are, for the first time this award season, going to be talking about the upcoming Emmys. It's been a very, very good season of TV thus far. In this video, we're going to be talking about the drama categories, always one of the more interesting races to keep an eye on. The nominations, I believe, come out in we're
July.
about a month, July, so about 2 months away. So this is our first foray into everything going on in Emmys this season. Any thoughts, Anthony, on the past TV shows? Because most of the shows will have finished airing by the end of the month to be eligible. So we've seen most of them that we can.
I think the drama category is maybe not as interesting as the comedy category this year, just because it seems like it's going to be one of those years where it's just going to be a competition between two shows. And as far as the nominations, I think there's a lot of maybe surprise contenders that can get into that like number six spot. So I think there's a lot more intrigue and suspense to be had at the nomination stage. But you'll see when we go through the categories that a lot of the winners, I feel like, are already sewn up. A lot of people think they already know what's happening. And given that those two shows are not only brilliant seasons of television, but I believe the best seasons of their shows thus far, I'm very excited that these are at least there are two shows that are worthy of this recognition. So I'm ready to jump right into this conversation.
Interesting. I think I may have a different winner than the two you have front running right now. So let's
Mm.
see. Series
Ho,
right now,
ho.
I have the PITT winning. So follow me for a second on this argument. I was
Okay.
thinking about this the other day. It's a bit of a swing, winning, especially for its first season, the PITT. I think it's going to have the most support and passion behind it. And I think there are multiple reasons that people in the industry will want to vote for it. One, it's rough right now in Hollywood, to say the least. The industry is experiencing a bit of a economic slowdown, I would say. And there are lots of things contributing to that. I think lots of people blame the peak streaming boom as part of the system that set up everything that's going on right now. Streaming disrupted the traditional revenue model, reduced the amount of episodes greatly, down from like what was usually like 12 to 24 plus episodes to like now usually in a lot of seasons like 6 to 8 episodes, which in turn means less work, less pay. It takes like 2 years for shows to return, streaming shows to return. And on top of this, so few productions take place in Hollywood now, as we're seeing with potential tariffs incoming. Not to get into that, but lots of productions don't take place here anymore due to the cost of filming here. But here comes a show that kind of breaks all of those trends. It's a procedural medical drama. It has an air of prestige around it still, so it's like both prestige procedural is what I would say. It's got 15 episodes airing weekly. It's got a large ensemble as well as weekly guest star opportunities for actors. It shoots here in Hollywood. It built all of its buzz organically week to week. I think in a lot of ways, The PITT is the type of TV show that used to be more common in Hollywood, and I think the type of TV show and like TV model that a lot of the television industry I think would love to return to. So not only is it like a great show, I think it's a perfect mix of, like I said, procedural and prestige. I feel like because of the episode count, you connect to the characters a lot more over the time. Week to week, you get more invested in the characters. And I think it also represents the form of television production that I think a lot of the people who are going to be voting in this category want to return to. So it's not only a vote for the PITT because you like the show, it's also a vote for a more sustainable and like I would say healthy model of television.
I think
So
I think you should be on Warner Brothers PR team, and that should
yeah,
be
I
the
should.
pitch. Because I do not think they're going to pitch it as well as you are pitching it right now.
But don't you think
I,
people want to
my
return to that form of TV in the industry rather than like
yes, but
6 to 8
I wonder.
episodes?
Yes, but I wonder whether they even recognize that. I just think that television and movies in the last like 15 years have just submerged together, like two exploding stars crashing into each other, and I just don't know if people have that awareness. I mean, other than something like Matlock, which we'll talk about when it comes to Kathy Bates. I mean,
Hmm.
I just think that there seems we've dived headfirst into this new age of television. I think storytelling wise, people really enjoy this new era. And so I could see the positioning of what you're saying, but I just think you're giving the voters a little bit too much credit to pay attention to that and to vote on that. And I also think that this is a group unlike a lot of like of film awards and a lot of the, the Oscars, Golden Globes, where sometimes when it comes to movies, they won't, pick the most popular thing. The Emmys tend to pick very popular shows, and so I think the fact that this is a season one also hurts it when it's going up against such big titans. Yes, season ones have won this category before in these, this new era, which I kind of look at as 2000 on.
None of these shows
There
have
have
won
been
drama series before either, so it will be a first
That's
time
true.
winner no matter what.
Yes, but so looking at the last 25 years, 5 shows have won on their first season: West Wing, Mad Men, Homeland, Handmaid's Tale, Shogun, and Shogun won last
Okay.
year. So that it would be very rare to see 2 season 1s win back to back. But so I just think that the pit is I think really establishing itself, and I think could do very well when it comes back around, kind of like Succession did. It got its foot in the door, but it was going up against Game of Thrones season 8. When it came back for season 2, it was able to dominate. And because I do think there it needs to be a little bit more of a discovery, and I think the thing that will benefit the 2 shows that I was mentioning at the top, which is Severance and The White Lotus, they're going to have a flurry of acting nominations, and I think that only helps boost your show because you just are in the conversation so much more. And I don't know if the pit will have that, and I also don't know if it's going to win anything outside of this. Like, what's the package for this? Because I do think that, you know, like Hacks, for instance, when it was surprised last year winning comedy series, it was always competitive in supporting actress, and it was always it's been winning lead actress. So those are 2 categories that keep it in the conversation, as well as directing and writing, which is very strong. And I just don't know where the pit can compete with this lineup in the other categories that would then make it feel like it's going to win drama series.
I would say probably similar to Hacks. It wins writing and the lead actor wins is what I would say. The latest seasons of Severance and The White Lotus, I feel like The White Lotus I think is widely considered by a lot of people this past season its weakest season.
Which is so bizarre to me because like it
Yeah.
was by far the most talked about, the most popular, you
hmm
know. And I don't know. I just think that as far as I think it's the Jennifer Coolidge element is missing. So maybe that was
hmm
people are responding to a different tonality. I also found it less mean. Maybe that's why I liked it a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I don't, just to play my cards. I have Severance winning this category. So
hmm
I think White Lotus will be competitive in some of the acting categories, but I think Severance will win drama series because I do think, in a way, similar to what you're arguing for the pit, this is a show that frankly we haven't seen, I think, in a long while because so many people were diving into limited series, or they were doing, you know, these sort of Succession, like, definitely well made, but nothing flashy. Where Severance is a very flashy genre show that kind of echoes back to the days of Lost, Game of Thrones in its heyday. And I think people like having this sort of new mythology to get into. I also think what it talks about with work culture is something that's also very prescient. I think Ben Stiller is a major force behind this show, and I think he's getting a lot of people. I mean, you have Christopher Walken as a supporting character. I mean, that alone is just bringing a level of prestige to this show. I think Apple has done a really good job maintaining the brand and keeping everybody aware of Severance. I also think it also helps when the finale is largely regarded as like the best thing the show has done so far. And I think many people were very,
Interesting.
very happy with the season 2 finale. So to me, I also think it's going to do very well with the Creative Arts Emmys and the Primetime Emmys. It can cross over into both. Um, and I think there was a lot
Interesting
of goodwill
choking.
with that first season. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Severance in my lead, but I do think the pit is coming on strong, and I'm just curious. I mean, can Max really take? And Max,
That's
not
the thing.
HBO. Can Max take drama and comedy series? A little
Yeah.
spoiler for our comedy conversation.
Yeah, Max is coming up in the world, it seems. But yeah, the Severance I think makes the most sense if you're just like looking at it from like the past of what the Emmys did and just all of that stuff. I do still think I feel like the second season was I feel like considered weaker than the first one. I feel like it had a little bit of a stumble
Wait,
in
wait,
like that
are you
six,
still
seven,
on
eight
Twitter? Is
range.
this Blue Sky? I don't know. Maybe we're a different,
Yeah, maybe
world.
we're on different Twitters, but I feel like in the 6, 7, 8 range of like the episodes, it like kind of slowed down a little. Like you had the what's her name? The Patricia Arquette episode, I think wasn't like everyone's favorite.
Yeah, the Harmony Cobell episode, but it did have
hmm
Jane Alexander, so he
It
gets
did.
an honorary chef's kiss. But I think that just the ending. I think the episode about Miss Casey I thought was very well regarded.
Hmm.
And the retreat episode. I just think that Severance really. More than a lot of these shows that were returning, really expanded the borders of this season. And I do think that with White Lotus, it was the show that everybody was talking like, "Oh, have you seen Severance? Have you caught up with Severance?" And I think it helps to be a water cooler show. I think that really helps in
Yeah.
this conversation when it comes to the Emmys.
And
Um,
you don't feel like the pit was? I think the pit kind of like steadily built until like those last 5 episodes. It was pretty popular.
I think it's getting there. I just think it's and this is just it's hard for a debut show to compete against something that has a I mean Severance season one debuted in 2022. We have 3 years of a fandom that's been growing. White Lotus
Hmm.
was 2021, I believe, when season one got started. So it's fair again, and I also think the pit could rise like from now till July and then July to September. Like it's like the pit has not hit its ceiling yet, and maybe
Yeah.
Severance and White Lotus already have. So I think Pitt I would definitely put in the top three, maybe even
Hmm.
two. Maybe you swayed me to put it above White Lotus, but I think right now I'm just going to go with that. Severance was the bridesmaid the last time and is going to be anointed, and the Pitt is going to be the bridesmaid this time, and it will continue this domino cycle.
True. That is how the Emmy cycle often works. I do sometimes I think feel like they like discoveries though, and I feel like everyone when they watch the pit, they kind of feel like they're discovering something that hasn't been complete. Like
Yeah.
it's fulfilling a void that hasn't been fulfilled anytime
But
recently.
I do think though that I could see. I'm not saying this is true, and I'm not saying this will happen, but I could see a certain contingent of people feeling like, oh, this is just 24 meets Grey's Anatomy. It's in a hospital. It's a certain yes, it's well done, but it's a certain thing. Or I think Severance does have an originality to it that I think really excites people, and that is one of I think it's sharpest and like sneaky weapons in this race. I also think looking at last year because Shogun did win on its first season. Um, you know, it was interesting. We had I think a large amount of season ones and shows that were kind of like really announcing themselves across in the pack. I believe that was the first time Slow Horses got in last
It
year.
was, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had Three Body Problem, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think that was also the first time Gilded Age got in. Really
Hmm.
the
It
only
was a
like
weak
the big.
race last year.
Well, yes, and partly because of the strikes. So I also I think that says it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if maybe there is still a little residue of the strike bump with that, and whether people are still want to embrace new shows. Because we even have we can start going down the list. We have a very similar list. I think we only disagree on one or
Okay.
two,
Oh,
actually. Yeah,
interesting.
we disagree on two, and I don't know if any of those can rise, but it'll be interesting maybe to see which ones sneak in. You're going to be surprised which one didn't make my list if you know
Oh,
me.
I think I have a suspicion, and that show better get in. But let's start with the last race, which I think is pretty safe to get nominated. But I do think after I think everyone already knows at this point. But the shocking thing that happened in episode 2, I do have a feeling it might be a bumpy road for the show. Is the feeling I'm getting, and I don't think it will be strong enough to win in those regards.
Yeah, it's interesting, without spoilers. But the way that is being received compared to some of like the shocking developments on other drama series, and I think that says that when shocking things happened I'm doing a rewatch of Game of Thrones, so that's why it's in my head.
Hmm.
But when shocking things happen on Game of Thrones, there's like five other
It's an
characters, and
ensemble
like
show.
it's an ensemble show. So like if something happens to one of them, you're still engaged with the others, whether it's a death or just an unfortunate episode or scene or sequence. Like they'll grab you back in with something else that's going on in that show. It played a big risk. It'll work for some people, but it's definitely not working for everybody. So I agree. I have it near the top. Like I do think it's in the top four. I agree with the four shows we have in that top four, but it is
Yeah,
firmly in that four. It is not climbing,
definitely.
and I think there are other shows that could climb above it. Honestly, if the season develops. Um, I also agree with Slow Horses. I think that again, it has
It's
precedent
gotten
getting in
last
here.
year.
So I think Yeah, and Gary Oldman, I think, very well regarded. And then the only other show we agree on is The Diplomat, short in
Hmm.
season two, very bingeable, and again, a show that the Emmys have shown some favor towards. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
think it's funny. I think you went
interesting.
more commercial. I feel like you went for the more popular, more commercial shows.
Well,
And I kind of,
yeah, I went with
I mean,
two other
yeah,
shows that have gotten in for their first season, Andor season two and Squid Game season two. I feel like Andor, it's not getting a lot of talk right now, but I do think there's an air of like I think it's very respected and there's an air of prestige around it, and I think the second season so far is even better than the first one. So I have hope, especially because it's recent. It'll like have come out more recently to when people are voting than lots of these other shows that it'll still get in for the second season. Squid Game season two,
mhm.
because I have it at 8, I'm less confident in that. I'm just looking at the other options. It got in for the first season. It did very well for the first season. The second season is it got good enough reviews. It got great ratings, and the third season I think will be coming out during voting. I think it comes out in June. It
Which
might be
always
after
helps.
voting.
It's
It does
all
always help,
because people then
and it's
forget
the
what
final
season we're
season
voting
too.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Um,
just I'm curious. You have two other shows in that because looking at all these other options, I don't feel good about any of them. So I'm curious what you
Yeah.
have.
So the thing about Squid Game, I will say, is that it's. I think that would be my number nine, just because I do think there's a world where that gets in, like Stranger Things would get in,
Hmm.
specifically Stranger Things season three and four, which were not, once because Stranger Things season one and two was getting like Millie Bobby Brown and David Harbour nominated, so there was other places within the main show, and I believe directing and writing also for those first two seasons were nominated. By the time we got to season three, it kind of was just like best drama series and then the creative categories in the other Emmy ceremony. But it was able to get in because of the strength of the brand, the strength of the show, and so that's where I think Squid Game could sneak in there because the first season was so well regarded, and season two wasn't considered that much of a depreciation. The two shows I went with is because I think that kind of similar to what you were arguing with the pit. I do think there's maybe a place where the Emmy voters are going to get excited for a new show. I have Paradise. I think that was a very well regarded
Okay.
show on Hulu. It also is doing something interesting where they've been airing the episodes on ABC on cable. And so it has different places of reaching viewers, which I think is interesting. And it's such a well regarded Emmys patable cast with Sterling K. Brown and Julianne
Hmm.
Nicholson that I could see that doing well. And then listen, it might be a little bit of a risk, but I do think because it's such a a strong Emmys competitor in the past, it was the first show from a streamer to win. I have Handmaid's Tale for its final season getting in.
Oh, okay.
I do think ultimately there's a little bit more goodwill towards that show and the history, especially now in the political climate. It is also debuting right now, so it's current. Than something like Andor, which I think you know yes, it's good. I think some people think it's better than the first season, but I do think that there might be like if you're choosing between the two, I think people are going to pick Handmaid's Tale over Star Wars. But
They like Star Wars though. Obi-Wan
they
Kenobi
do
got
like
in for
Star Wars.
limited series. I mean,
I think that speaks to the amount of nominees that were
yeah, but
capable of
even
running
then,
in that category.
Mandalorian got in. I feel like the
Yeah,
Emmys more
for
than any
sure,
other place like Star Wars, it
for sure.
seems.
Andor would be my 10. I don't think it's out of the
Hmm.
realm of possibility. I just think that I think I think Handmaid's Tale is not a very like social media centric show. It's not a. It's like its audience is a little bit older, and I also think because it's six seasons, like the people who are with it are with it. I don't think it's bringing in new people, which you could
Yeah.
argue could be something against it. But I do think it means that the people who are there show up. And to me, the comparison I would give is Better Call Saul. It's not going to be a big winner. It might not win anything. Season five didn't really. I think it may if it won one, if nothing, it was like a
Didn't Better Call
this
Saul
isn't a
get
big
in every
winner.
season though? Like,
Yes,
did it ever
and so
miss?
has Handmaid's Tale.
I don't think
I don't think
Handmaid's Tale
Handmaid's Tale
got
has
in for
ever
its
missed.
last season. The
I
season
believe
5, I believe.
so. So the last season of Handmaid's only got nominated for Elizabeth Moss. However, it was released in the fall, so this definitely has a better release date. And I do think
Hmm.
the fact that it's the final season and we're back in an era where many people find comparisons to The Handmaid's Tale, especially within the Emmys voting body, I could see maybe getting that last push. And it might speak more to people maybe not being as jazzed with the Andor because I do think Andor's release strategy is curious. I wonder how that will play, whether it's going to matter to Emmys voters. So We'll see how to
Let's
do it.
speaking of Handmaid's Tale, the one nomination, just like last season, I have getting in drama actress is for Elizabeth Moss. She seems to always get in there. I believe this is the top six in the odds. I feel pretty good about this six. It's the winner that I don't feel confident about. I do think it would be Bella Ramsey, Britt Lauer, or Kathy Bates. I think it'd be any of those three. I don't see Kerry Russell winning again for The Diplomat. I feel like that second season. I don't think that show is strong enough to overcome these other shows. Once again, Elizabeth Moss always gets in, and Melanie Linsky, she got in for the second season. The third season seems to be also getting mixed reviews like the second season. I just looking at the only other person I would probably consider is Keira Knightley for Black Doves, and I feel like Kerry Russell kind of fulfills the Netflix spy political drama slot. I don't know if both of them would get in. So that's the six. I'm curious who you would have winning because I don't feel Bella Ramsey is doing great in The Last of Us. They're great. Um, Especially I think now that the show is going to be pretty much entirely on their shoulders. I think if viewers stick with the show, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Britt Lauer is good in Severance. It's not the most showy performance, and neither is Kathy Bates in Matlock. I'm just curious because like Severance and The Last of Us are going to be in the drama series category. Matlock is this will be its only nomination, I would guess. I don't think it's going to break into drama series.
But I mean,
So
I don't think when you're Kathy Bates playing Matlock, I think that's like
I think it
there is a
has
world
some
where she
impact.
wins. Like she
Like,
doesn't need other nominations to support
what
her.
was the last winner that wasn't in the actual like series nominees though? I feel like
When was
that's
the
pretty
last time
rare.
that we had a network show competitive in the Emmy like in this way? Like this is like
Mm-hmm.
huge. I mean, we have to go back to what This Is Us. Like this is like
Yeah,
you know it's crazy. I don't see her winning though. I just think that I wouldn't count her out just because it's the only nomination. This is a scenario where she could be fine on her own. Um, I don't think Kerry Russell's ever won an Emmy, has she?
no, she hasn't. I remember people always being like, she didn't win for The Americans.
Yeah, because so I could see her, especially if Diplomat gets in for drama series, which we both think is going to happen, feeling like you've paid your dues. This is a great show. You are the show. And so I could see a world where she wins, especially if they don't think Bella Ramsey has earned it yet, and also if you know, just the disappointment in season two then permeates the show in other categories. I
Mm-hmm.
would love to see Britt Lauer win. I think that's one of the most
That's who I
complex
would.
characters on television now. Um, but I think I might put Kerry Russell. I do have one
Interesting.
disagreement though with your top six, which
Oh,
I'm kind of doing just to, listen. We have to keep it
spice
interesting,
things up.
but
Yeah,
also I also think Yellow Jacks it's not connecting as much, and I'm gonna go out on a limb with a show that I love, but also a show that's where this woman got in for season one, and she's also been nominated for writing for this show. So they have seen it. Hopefully, they stuck around
oh,
for season two. I'm going with Sharon Horgan for Bad Sisters. I
yeah.
think she's beloved, especially within the television world. And I thought this was another fantastic season of this show. I would love this show to get more nominations. Like the whole ensemble is great. I don't know why they just don't want to view it that way. But I think she is just remarkable, and I think just you see her in interviews, and just everybody just loves talking to her. And so I think that she has a lot of unique charisma, and it's a great role. And I'm going to put her in at number six. Um, so
I could
yeah,
see that.
also because I think it benefits because these roles are so serious that I think she's
Yeah,
able to have a little fun. It's a dark comedy, dramedy. So I think it's a flavor that's a little bit different from the other nominees, and that might have her stand out.
that's true. True, true. And who would I think I'm between? I think it's either Ramsey or Lower who would win. I might actually switch
I'm
over
going to
to
stick with
Lower.
Russell.
You're gonna
I'm going
say
to stick with
Russell?
Russell.
Okay.
I think Diplomat is well regarded enough, and I think people they'll start banging the drum that she's never won. She didn't win for the
Yeah,
Americans. That was Matthew Reese.
yeah. Interesting stuff. Also interesting stuff going on in drama actor, where like I said, I have the PITT winning, so it would make sense for the star of the show, no like star in front of and behind the camera, Noah Wiley for the PITT. Um, I mean, he carries the entire show on his back. He's in pretty much most scenes. He's like walking around the entire hospital. He's from carrying it over. Like it's kind of like a little bit of a narrative. They're carrying it over from ER, where he was much younger, long ago on that show. Carrying it over now to being the lead on the PITT. He's also like a creative force behind it. I believe like he wrote a few episodes. I think like producer on the show. Um, and I don't know, it's just a very likable character. And I think his only competition here is Adam Scott for Severance. I think whatever of
Yeah,
those two wins drama series will probably win drama actor, but I could see a world where Severance wins and Wiley still wins for the pit. But Scott does have some showy stuff on Severance this season, like even in the last episode where he's talking back and forth between his two different versions. It's a great performance. It
that
lead of
better
the
be the
show.
episode they submit. And if they do, I do think there's a world where he wins. I think this is
Mm-hmm.
honestly too close to call right now. I could see this being where they honor the pit, but I also could see Adam Scott, TV veteran, has been in so many sitcoms. I mean, I forget he's in Big Little Lies. I think he's
Yeah.
been such a steady, character actor on television. And the fact that he's the lead of this big drama, big spectacle show, and that a lot of the great moments are down to his interactions, his reactions, just selling. I mean, I do think ultimately a lot of the show comes down to him selling the Innie versus Outie dynamic more than any of the other characters, because he's the one we spend most time with outside. I think it's a very nuanced performance that I do think this my same arguments for why people gravitate towards Severance. I think they gravitate to it in large part because of Adam Scott's performance. So
Mm-hmm.
but it's so close because again, I do think that Noah Wiley seems he is the pit.
Yeah.
Maybe, and it seems that you're more familiar with the show than me. That like
Have you not
Severance,
watched the
you could
pit?
argue is well, I'm making my way through it,
You're making
but
your way through it.
I
Okay.
think I think like when you look at it in totality, Severance seems more of an ensemble than the pit does. I think the pit does kind of more narrow in. Is that a fair thing to say?
I would say, I don't know. I actually think they're both
Do you think Adam
ensembles.
Scott is on screen more percentage wise in Severance than Noah Wiley is in the pit?
Um, Maybe. I think it would actually probably be close. Because there are like
Okay,
whole like subplots and like each character on the ensemble of Pit in the ensemble of Pit each episode like has their own thing to do. It's more like Dr. Robbie pops in between each storyline, like because he's the uh what I forget what they call it, like the head doctor or whatever. So he's overseeing the entire thing, but there are plenty of scenes where he's not involved, but he definitely like is he's always a presence felt even if he's not there. So I don't
hmm,
know. It's probably close, but I'd say they're both definitely ensemble shows. I Something about the pit makes it feel more ensemble just because it's a much larger group than Severance, and they're all in one
gotcha.
spot together.
Hmm. All
So
right, fair enough. Should we
we'll
move
see.
on to
Yeah, I guess we can
because
talk about the other. Well, I think it's worth mentioning. Pedro Pascal, I do think is going to be running in lead still. I think he's going to pull a Brian Cox from Succession, the final season where he's not around for a bunch of the episodes, but still submits himself in lead. Just because when we look at the supporting categories, I feel like this is safer territory for him, and I do think he's still considered the lead of the show by a lot of people. He's still like the face of the
yeah,
show, even in the second season, all the campaigns and stuff and the marketing, he's still the face. Um, and in the drama supporting actor categories, in both of them, in a season where the White Lotus is around, that is a dangerous territory to get into.
I do think that Gary Oldman, Sterling K. Brown, also both in there. The one
Mhm.
I'm going to throw in is John Hamm and Your Friends and
Yeah, I
Neighbors.
can see that.
I guess I'm really behind Apple TV today,
Yeah,
and because yeah, I think that it's Don Draper, and I think the show's building its fan base right now, and I don't know. I'm feeling they're going to want to lean into a new show like this.
yeah. I don't
So
feel great
um,
about Lee Jung Jae, but he won for the first season, right? Yeah.
I believe
So
did.
it would make
Yeah, I
sense.
think he did.
It would make sense for him to at least get in for the second. If I have the second season in drama series, it would make sense to have him in there. But and looking at the other options like Eddie Redmayne for the Day of the Jackal, I don't think so. John Hamm is possible. Diego Luna, he didn't get in for the first season of Andor, so I don't know why he would get in for the second. Let's get into, speaking of the White Lotus categories, our upcoming drama White Lotus categories. This is where in supporting actress, I have 5 White Lotus
Are
nominees.
there are there are there 8 or 7?
Well, the thing is, we don't completely know yet. So I just put it's either going to be 7 or 8. You'll see this on most of the
Okay.
because in lead actor it's a set 6, but in supporting, and I think both this and comedy, it depends on the amount of submissions. If there's like 6, 7, or 8, so I just put 8 because if there's 6, then you can look at my top 6. If there's 7, I think in drama it's only 7 or 8. So that's what I ended up
Mhm.
doing. I think Carrie Coon is probably gonna win for the White Lotus, but I do also see
She better win.
Parker Posey's kind of like the Jennifer Coolidge of this season, though. But Carrie
Yes,
Coon,
but
that final monologue was just so good that I don't know. She's more TV
yeah, I
royalty as well.
yeah, it's her time. Like this
Mhm.
is her moment. She delivered one of the best monologues I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
Yes, this is hers. But Parker Posey very strong in second.
Hmm.
Then I agree with you though. I swap it. Allison Janney, then Amy Lou Wood,
Yeah.
um, and then I have two names that you don't have. I also agree on Natasha
Interesting.
Rothwell. I think we'll get in there. I have Caitlin Dever, who's proving herself to be very popular within the Emmys voter base, and I think is definitely a very
For The Last
powerhouse
of Us,
performance there. Yeah, for The Last of Us.
she's gonna be
Is she
submitting
on a
in
different
Guest
show?
Actress. Is
Are
where
you
she's
sure?
submitting
Because
though. Yeah, because
Gold
she's
Derby
only in.
has her on supporting.
Well, I think that's because the Gold Derby polls opened her up her in her a while ago, but I think it's pretty much up confirmed that she's only in one more episode, so she's going to be campaigning in Guest Actress.
Well then, I
So
have to
you can
change my
kick
list.
her on now. You can make room for someone from the pit.
Gold. Yes, honestly, that would probably be where I would put Taylor Dearden in there. The other one I have in there that you're probably going to shake your head at is Patricia Arquette because again, television royalty. I think they can submit that
Yeah,
episode, and I
but
do
I don't
think
think
just
people
that
like that
character is so
episode.
unique.
I
I
think
think
that's considered
fans
the
might not like
weak
it.
point of the season.
I will say, well, but again, if you're just getting the submissions, like as we know, they get sent an episode they have to watch for this individual performance. When I binged I didn't watch it week to week. I binged it. It didn't bother me as
Mhm.
much. I think it was more it's the thing of
Week
like
to week, it was a
we're
little
waiting a
upsetting
week
because
and then
you
like
spent like three
it's like
weeks with episodes there where you didn't get back to the storyline because you had that episode, you had the episode with Gemma, which was a great episode, but that didn't like that was more of
yeah.
a flashback. So yeah, that's fair.
And I just find it difficult imagining a world where Leslie Bibb and Carrie Coon get in, and then Michelle Monaghan doesn't. I don't know, like just something feels off about that.
Leslie Bibb feels like
Um,
Megan Fahey of this season to me, where it's like a little more subtle work going on there. Like even just her smile at the table when talking about like Trump.
uh,
I feel like
yeah,
um,
don't get me
she
wrong, it's a
surprised a lot
great
of people.
performance. Yes, for sure. I just it would feel, but listen, things have we nominated Ryan Gosling and America Ferrera with that Margot Robbie, so it's happened.
Hmm.
But I don't know, it's hard for me to not it's a triangle. It's you have to if you
I
don't
feel
have
like
one
if you were to
side,
rank them, though, Michelle would win. Unfortunately, she's also the least likable of the three. She would rank third in terms of likeliness. I think it's
yeah,
totally plausible. I think Rothwell feels pretty safe as well, returning. She got in for the first season. She'll get in for this one. She had her
yeah.
own storyline. Um, yeah, and then for the pit, I think it probably in the odds. I don't think anyone in the pit is in the top 8 or so currently. But if someone gets in, I think it would be either Taylor Dearden, who plays Mel. She is Bryan Cranston's daughter, but she is incredible on that show. She's my favorite character. So I think there's lots of love for her character, and I also think Catherine Lanasa, who plays like the head nurse of the entire ER, is also an incredible presence on that show, and I love her as well. So I think it would be one of those two. Right now, I'm leaning more towards Dearden because I think she's just like everyone's like, oh my god, I love that character, because she's just so sweet and lovable. So that's where I'm leaning. It could also be Catherine Lanasa, I believe, at the Gotham TV nominations, which just happened a few weeks ago. It was Lanasa that got in instead of Dearden. So it'd be one of those two. I'd bet on one of them getting in there. I'm just leaning towards Dearden right now. And also Isabel Merced for The Last of Us. I think instead of Caitlin Eber will be your supporting actress push because given where the show is going, it seems like she's going to be in fulfilling a role that has been recently emptied. So I think, and she's very charming on the show. I think if there's 8 spots, I'd probably have her in there. Because I wouldn't fit any other. I'm not going to do 6 White Lotus people. I think 5 is plenty. I'd love to see Genevieve O'Reilly again for Andor, but I don't think Andor's going to get acting nominations,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Her
But
lovely
yeah,
dance.
it's also crazy. Allison Janney's barely in like the Diplomat season 2, and she could campaign and guest, but she's going as supporting actress.
Emmy's royalty. It's what I keep telling you. It's why I think
And
Arquette's going to get in.
she got a SAG nomination for the second season of the show, where they don't even do it's lead and supporting actors all together in one category, and she got in. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so feeling very good about that as well. Supporting actor. I don't know who to pick as the winner here. I think it could be John Turturro for Severance. I think it could be Walton Goggins for The White Lotus. And I think it could also be Tremel Tillman for Severance. Who would you have winning? I can't. I think it's one of those three. I just can't decide because Walton Goggins, he's good, but I feel like he's like his whole storyline is one of the weakest parts of the season. I don't think like it's anything. I don't think he did anything like that surprised anyone there. Because I think John Turturro, he had like that whole the episode 4 episode, but that was earlier on in the season. He kind of has less to do in the second half of the season. But Tremel Tillman is incredible throughout all of Severance. He gets a bigger role this season, and he's always good. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Who
I
would you
could
have winning?
see a world where Tremel Tillman wins in the same way that we all thought it was Kieran Culkin for season
Yeah,
three, and then
exactly.
in
That's
came
what I
in
was
Matthew
thinking.
McFadyen. Um, and now that you've put that
That's what
idea
I
in my
thought.
head,
Yeah, I think I would agree with
yeah,
that honestly.
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's.
Let's
We can't
switch it
edit
up.
this thing,
I'll edit it
but
in post. I'll switch up the graphic, but yeah, because
yeah, because
Goggins just doesn't
you know
make
what?
sense to me. I don't know
I
why.
think Goggins has the unfortunate thing when competing of playing a very unlikable character and a character whose ending is not one that gets you, fist pumping. Like wow, like whether it's
Oh,
a drama or a comedy, you know, it's a very uncomfortable ending. And so I do think that will hurt him. And then I agree, John Turturro, he has a great moment. He has a great scene in episode
hmm
4 of season 2. But other than that, I don't know what we would be
he
awarding him
disappears for a
for.
lot of the second half because of what
Yeah,
happens in episode 4.
yeah. And
So
Tremel
yeah,
Tillman is given more to do this season. It's a very interesting role. What I like about his character is that, and his performance is that it changes depending on who he's talking to. And so I think that shows a versatility and a variety to his performance that I think a lot of these other actors don't show. And it's not that they don't have the capability of it; just the characters are not maybe as interesting as Mr. Milchick. So yeah, I think
yeah.
let's go with Tremel Tillman,
Let's do
and
it.
this would also
Let's do
support
it.
the whether Adam Scott wins or is the runner up for actor. This would be a place that Severance could show some support on its path to the drama series too. So
Yeah,
I'll pick it for
loses
that
actor
reason
and
as well.
actress. It's not going to win
Yeah,
supporting actress. So
I'm
this is where
happy
it
to
could win.
see you have Mr. Schwarzenegger, Patrick,
Yeah, I think
because
he was a
I think
standout
that
of this
he
season
proved yeah, he proved himself,
for
and I
sure.
think that him, Jason Isaacs, Sam Rockwell, I all agree are getting in there, and then I also agree with Jack Loudon. And I guess
You
then
got
if
it
we're
in there.
going to an eighth spot, then maybe a pit actor does make sense.
Yes, yes. That if there's 8 spots, the pit actor does make sense for sure. But yeah, Isaac Schwarzenegger, I think both easily getting in there for the White Lotus. Both did great performances. I do think Schwarzenegger was definitely a big surprise for people. Loudon is like kind of the lead of the most recent season of Slow Horses, so it makes even they're still going to campaign him in supporting, so he has even more to do. So he'll get in there. Him and Jonathan Price are both kind of like leads. I don't think Jonathan Price will get in there, even though he did for the previous season. And yeah, Sam Rockwell, I'm iffy on. I would have him in there if there's 8 spots. I just, I think that character had like one standout monologue, and he didn't really serve much of a purpose for the rest of the season. So we'll see. It's definitely possible. Patrick Ball, I do think, is the supporting actor standout on the pit. He's really the only actor I could see getting in there. This is like his second. I think he was like in a Law and Order episode, and this is like the second thing on television he's ever done. He's a theater actor. Um, yeah, and he has his whole own subplot and storyline throughout the entire thing. He at the end becomes a less likable character, but a complex character for sure. So definitely possible for him as well. I think that's pretty
Yeah,
much everyone, right?
yeah, I think that the one thing I'll just say is when it comes to Sam Rockwell, I do think it is one scene, but that one scene I do think struck a chord with a lot of people, and I think they were very impressed with just the substance of the scene, let alone how well Rockwell delivers it. And I also think
Mm-hmm.
Rockwell gets a little bit of like juice from like, oh wow, we weren't expecting you to be on this show. Like I think
Yeah,
there's a little bit of an unexpected nature to that character and that performance. But I don't think he'll rise enough that he'll challenge the top three.
no, no.
So um, yeah,
Yeah, I guess Zach Cherry for Severance, I guess, is possible if Severance overperforms. Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
and
I think
he
that's
was
pretty
great
much
this
it.
season and given more to do. But
Yeah, he got his own thing to do. So we'll see. And then in the the final little bit of this drama stuff. We don't know enough, I think, about the guest categories to completely talk about them yet because these shows haven't finished airing. We don't know who is going to be in enough episodes, who's going to be in too much episodes, all of that stuff. So when we do our final predictions closer to when the Emmy nominations happen in the summertime, we will talk about those categories because we'll know more. But right now, same goes with directing and writing. We don't even know what they're going to have submitting for those episodes or for those categories. So that's it for drama. Any final thoughts on any of this stuff? I think we've pretty much covered it. So that is it for the drama categories. Comment your predictions down below. I'm interested. I've seen less predictions. I'm not completely sure besides the Gold Derby stuff where people stand on stuff. Some great TV shows this season. So comment your thoughts, your predictions, all that stuff, and we'll see you in the comedy categories and limited series as well. So lots of Emmy coverage coming. So thank you all. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.